Hey, it's Roy and Kim in real life, except today sitting in Kim's position is my right-hand man, my little boy, Bucky. Say hi, Bucky. Hey, Pop. Hey, little baby. All right, well, he's just excited to be out of the house. Typically, I'd be working right now, and I kind of am, running some errands for the business, but rescheduled the job that we had today due to inclement weather. Of course, it seems like oftentimes when we do that, it doesn't actually end up raining, which kind of looks like the case today, but you just got to roll the dice sometimes. Better safe than sorry. Anyway, I just wanted to take a few minutes today and just kind of talk about something that I've been thinking about recently, and really a train of thought that started years ago when I had come across an article. I think it was an interview actually that I had seen on YouTube with a guitar great, at least in the rock world, by the name of Steve Vai. He's kind of one of those guitar virtuoso guys that I grew up kind of following when I was a kid. Never was like a huge fan of his music, but he's definitely a talented, skilled musician. And I play guitar, and so at the time I was, a lot more into studying and practicing guitar than I am now. And so I remember just kind of reading, I believe it was a video interview that I saw with him. But nonetheless, he made an interesting statement in the interview when asked about his kind of personal practice, disciplines, and kind of just his personal disciplines for just really improving in life. And he said something that I thought was really interesting, and it kind of came back into my memory recently, as I'm always constantly striving to be better than yesterday. He said this. He said that he didn't really make a practice of working on his weaknesses. That he's had a lot of personal achievements and really mastered his craft by focusing on his strengths. And so it's something I kind of wanted to talk about today. It's really that train of thought, that idea of improving on the good things, and I might even name the YouTube video that, but because oftentimes, even myself, I find myself kind of, we can get stuck and we can get tripped up on all the things that we're not so good at, and we'll focus on those things, and they'll drive us nuts, they'll irritate us, and they'll really hold us back from really progressing, and in the areas that we're actually good at, and sometimes we end up kind of shortchanging ourselves, and really sometimes we can have that kind of glass half empty mentality rather than focusing on the good things and allowing those things that we're weaker in or that we're developing to kind of incrementally grow over time, and then really in a realistic proportion as well, realistic expectations, I should say. And so I just want to encourage somebody with that today. There's challenges that we're all facing, there's things that we're going through, and sometimes it seems like we've got miles and miles to go and we've made inches of progress. But I think when we can really take some time and focus on the things that we're good at, focus on the good, invest in the good things, then we can, like I said, we can find a better footing to tackle the things that we're not so good at. And really, I think the first thing about that is that when we look at the good things or focus on the good things, improve on the good things, then it builds momentum into the next challenge. It builds momentum for those things that we're really striving to master outside of the things that we're already good at. And so, for example, like back when I was in restaurant management, remember I had gotten promoted to this position that I really was not qualified for. But what got me there was just being a hard worker, and being a good listener, willing to take direction, willing to learn, and then just being a good people person. And so I went from basically like an hourly employee to running my own store within the course of 1 year. And it wasn't due to my qualifications, but it was really due to the things that I was good at and accentuating those things. And so I found out real quick when I got into the actual position that I had a lot to learn, man. I just did not really know how to run a restaurant, but I was able to kind of, I guess, soften the blow of some of those shortcomings by really accentuating the things that I was good at. And so the things that I wasn't, I guess, apt to be able to do, I found people that were good at it, in my peer group and also within my own management circle. So I hired people who had skills that I didn't have to work with me, technically under me, but honestly with me and for me. Hold on, Pop. To help me develop those skills, on the job, so to speak. I didn't have a college degree. I didn't have the resume, but I aligned myself with people who had a lot of the skills that I needed. And so I just focused on what I was really good at, and that was people. I was good at motivating people. I was good at building a team. I was good at encouraging people. And I was good at sales, really, just, building the sales of that first store. And so what that allowed me to do was take time and build momentum to develop some of the skills that I really, really needed to develop, like, actual, deeper communication skills. Maybe I really needed to work on, just kind of the financial, understanding of how to run that restaurant when it came to the profit and loss and predictions for the year and controlling food costs and those kinds of things. I had to learn a lot of that on the fly, but what got me there was really focusing and investing in the things that I was good at to give me time to build momentum into those other things. And so I'm going to take this pup for a little walk, and we'll get to the other 2 points in a second. The second thing, what it does is improving on the good things. It allows us to really maximize potential in those things that we're already good at. So think about it. Your greatest or my greatest potential for success or for, promotion, for that next step into, the next season of life where we want to see success in, that next area of life. The best way to get there is to leverage the potential, my highest potential that I currently have now. And so when we improve on those things that are already solid in our lives, that we're already talented at and skilled at, it gives us the potential to reach even higher than we could have if we started from a weaker position. And so I think that's something that I've really had to learn these last almost 7 years in this business venture currently, which has nothing to do with food service. We provide exterior cleaning services. He loves it out here, man. This little pup loves running around. Once again, it was a foray of work that in a genre of work that I had never been involved in before, and I found it interesting. I was curious about it, and so launched this business almost 7 years ago. And I had to learn, once again, a lot of new things. And what I did in that meantime was continued to kind of maximize and capitalize on the skills that I had obtained from previous management positions, previous business ownership. And that gave me the best potential to really see success in this business. And so I immediately knew that, we had to build a strong, customer base. We needed to build a loyal following. We needed to develop an online presence and build our reviews online. And we needed a strong word of mouth. And so what I did was just really kind of put those same plans into action that I had back in the restaurant mentality. Took that customer service skills that I had inside of a building and just brought them outside of the building. And so what I made sure to do is that on every single job that we were on, no matter how big or how small, I strived for the maximum value out of that exchange, out of that encounter. I wanted to make sure that we got, a 5-star review. I wanted to make sure that they, had our information to give to friends and families. I wanted to make sure we had them, go like our Facebook page and, get an email to have further correspondence with. And so I just continued to improve on those things as we learned how to develop this type of business in this new market area. Previously I had owned a restaurant about 30 minutes away from here. I ran a restaurant with my brother for a few years as well. there, and it was just a different community. It was a different feel, different vibe. It was much more kind of intimate. I guess kind of a family area. Not that this isn't, but we're much more, in the city here, much more closer to downtown New Orleans, and and the business that we do here now isn't about people finding us as a destination. It's about us going to them and providing a service. And so I just, I think when we can just sit back for a second and, and kind of itemize those things in our lives that we're good at, that you have, some skill and mastery over already, you can use those things and leverage those things as your strongest potential to now set yourself up for success in the areas that you need to improve on. And I think it's awesome because now we can improve on areas of weakness from a place of strength, rather than starting from a spot of defeat or, shoulda, woulda, coulda, or, looking at all the deficiencies in our lives or what we lack. We can focus on what we have and what we've already grown strong in. And this gives us, like I said, maximum potential for success in those other areas that we need to conquer. Hey, come on, pup. Neat thing about the park in the middle of the day, there's nobody here. It's pretty cool. Although it's really, really humid, as this weather I know is going to roll in here pretty soon. They're talking about, some local potential flooding. Flood's really easy kind of around here. So I wanted to make sure I got this kid out before the rain starts, because he gets fidgety when he doesn't get to come out for his daily walk. Man, he's real spoiled. But it's my fault. I created the monster. But lastly, I want to wrap this up. I don't want to keep this too long. Lastly, I believe when we really take time just to improve on the good things, what it does, and I love this one a lot, is it fuels passion, it fuels creativity, because when we're good at something and we excel at something, typically those are the things that really bring us joy. Typically those are the things that bring us satisfaction, that actually start to fulfill us as people. I believe that, that God has created us to be creative. He's given man a mind and a will and emotions to be able to create and develop. I think about, like, even my dad, who's just, kind of a master carpenter, as I would say he is. That I believe that was a God-given ability that he has to be able to create, to be able to build. And it's just been, something I didn't take too serious in my younger years. But now that, I'm older and a little bit wiser, I just realize, I can really realize and see the extreme amount of talent that he really does have in the area of carpentry construction. I mean, I think I can work pretty hard. I can hammer some nails in. I can cut some lumber. But man, I just don't have that creative spark that he has when it comes to being able to see a pile of wood and then a finished product. And so I think when we, like I said, accentuate those positive things in our life, we build on those things, then it fuels that passion, that creativity, that desire to want to learn other things and explore other things and master other things. Because we draw joy from those things that we're good at, those things that we can accomplish. And we can say, man, that I feel, fulfilled in this. I feel satisfied in this. And, and this is one thing I've learned even in this business that I'm in now. I really try not to get hung up on the numbers. And I know that's not always kind of the best approach when it comes to running a business. But, I believe that, the numbers, they fluctuate, they come and go, they rise and fall. But what brings me true joy and what actually fulfills me as a person or as a business owner is doing good work at a fair price and doing it as I would do unto the Lord. As a pastor, as a minister, I know that I am, really have a higher standard than I believe even just the typical business that is not, looking to God as that ultimate authority. And so I find myself, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to pick up this pile of poop that he's got over here. you know, it brings me joy. It brings me fulfillment to do good work. You know, there's been times where we've had weeks that were horrendously terrible, just with weather, or maybe, you know, just obstacles, equipment failure, all kinds of stuff happening, physical sickness, you know, and I'll push through and we'll do the math at the end of the week and we'll say, like, man, you know what? The numbers just didn't add up. You know, when you look at what we've invested into this week versus what we came away with, you know, sometimes we don't even break even, you know, and but what keeps me going, what keeps me encouraged through all that is knowing that I have a greater purpose in life. You know, that it's not about the money, it's not about, you know, how much I can personally achieve. It's not about how many sales we do in a week or dominating our particular industry, but it's about honoring the Lord with my life. And so that's me personally, you know, and so I believe that, you know, when I do that, when I honor, you know, the Lord in everything that I do, then He'll direct my path. He'll take care of me of those things. You know, we like to say that, you know, you take care of God's business, He's going to take care of your business. And so sometimes that doesn't come monetarily. Sometimes we'll reap blessings that have nothing to do with money, you know, but they have to do with a peace and a joy that passes really kind of human understanding. And so, you know, I just want to encourage somebody out there with that today, that, you know, I know we're all fighting, we're all battling, you know, and usually our biggest fight is just against ourselves, you know, but I'm telling you today that, you know, you have talents and abilities, you have things that are unique to who you are. And if you just take a moment, acknowledge the Creator, you know, give honor to the Lord first. If you take a moment, give honor to Him, and then just look at those things that you've been gifted with, you've been blessed with, improve on those, and allow that to carry you and give you momentum and give you the best potential and give you the best fulfillment. You improve on those things, and I guarantee it'll be good. Allow those things to grow you. And so anyway, hey, this is Roy and Kim in real life, and Bucky. I'm gonna walk back up there and clean up his mess here now, and we'll get to you in the next video. Take care.